Hi everybody, welcome to Haul and Ash, and if this is your first time, please subscribe. Today I'm joined by a couple of fishing friends, Rich Wicklund and Brian Thompson. And what you see before us is going to be a project that Rich is very good at making. So Rich, why don't you tell everybody what it is?
Well, Steve, this is a jig that my dad actually thought up a while back and I created that is going to help you spool your fishing reels, whether it be trolling reels, spinning reels, any type of reels out there. This will help aid without the need for another person.
You got a name for this thing?
No.
No
You
name?
can name it if you want.
Brian, you want to give it a name? Brian doesn't say much.
Brian doesn't say much.
All right, well, let's get started.
All right, folks, we're in our safety attire right now. As you can see, we have some custom smocks on. We have all the parts laid out in front of us that we're going to need to make this very simple jig and product. Everything that's here can be found at a local hardware store, Tractor Supply, Family Farm and Home. We'll go through the components. You have a 12-inch piece of threaded 1/2 inch rod, 2 1/2-inch compression nuts, 2 1/2-inch regular nuts, 10 1/2-inch fender washers, and 1 7/8 by 3 7/16 compression spring, tape measure, a pencil, that's not supposed to be there, and a board that's approximately 18 inches long. Now your boards can vary, and they may vary depending on where you want to mount this, and you'll see later in the video what we actually do with this. This is very easy. It can be done with the simple hand tools, just a drill, hand saw, and just a little bit of time. So we're going to go ahead and get ready and get started here. Vanna, would you like to hold on to these? There. Nice. Very nice. So we're going to start out. We have a 3/4 inch piece of pine board right here, and we're going to set our offset for where we would like to drill our hole. We're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole. Obviously it can be done with a drill, not this bit. We're going to use a drill press for ease. And what we have here is we have a standard size spool. This is a small spool. This jig should be able to do spools that are 3,000 yards all the way down to 300 yards. And you'll see how it goes when we make it. The majority of these, you hungry?
I am.
Okay. The majority, that's a great breakfast. The majority of these spools are about 5.5 inches. So what I like to do is I like to offset my spool in here a little bit. And I like to have a little bit out the front. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape measure. And like I told you, these are about 5.5 inches. So half of 5.5 is 2 3/4. I'm going to actually go a little bit in further, and I'm going to go 3 inches. I'm going to make a mark at 3 inches. And then our board here, thank you, is 5.5 inches wide. So I'm going to find 2 3/4 to have it. And I'm going to make a center. So as you can see, I got a little center mark there. And we're going to drill that out with a 1/2 inch bit. So give us a minute. We'll head on over to the drill press and we'll drill this out.
You didn't think I was going to let those two guys have all the fun, did you? When it comes to wood, I am the legend. So as Rich said, we could do this with a hand drill, but I already have a drill press set up here with a 1/2 inch bit. So we're going to go ahead and drill that hole that he needs. And it's just that easy.
All right, folks, we got our pilot hole drilled. Now what we're going to do is we're going to assemble this, get it so that we have the proper spacing on both sides. This jig is actually made so that you can use both sides and leave your line on there. You don't have to take it off, store it somewhere. You can just leave it on there. If you're like me, I utilize 10-pound test a lot for my walleye rods. I use 6-pound test a lot for my spinning rods, so I just leave my spools on there all the time. So I'll take my 1/2 inch guide rod. How long is that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread that through so that I know that I have a size that's long enough to put a spool like this on the one side, or a spool like this on the one side, and then one of the larger 3000 spools on the other side. So I'll get my spacing pretty close to correct here. And it's just a guessing, and all this stuff could change. If you need to change it, we're not making any cuts or anything here. So it should be pretty easy to move it in or out depending. Do you have a fender washer? So we're going to take one fender washer and put it on this side to the board, and one of our standard nuts on this side. We're going to take another fender washer. We're going to take that other fender washer, put it on the other side. So now we got two nuts. And we're going to screw that on. Maybe. Eventually. The righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Play some music right now. Think you could speed this up during editing? God, I hope so. Because no one's gonna want to watch 5 minutes of me doing this, are they? What are we having for lunch?
I'm thinking a Whopper.
Whoppers are good. It's like watching grass grow. All right, so now we got that on there. I'm going to take two 3/4 inch wrenches. Obviously, you could use adjustable wrenches, crescent wrenches. If you're strong enough, I guess you could probably use your hands. We're going to give that a little tighten and a little lockdown there. Got that on, so it's not going to move. Now we're going to need two more fender washers. Were you in charge of the fender washers? Carpenter pants. Now what we actually found when we originally did this was one fender washer wasn't enough. It provided too much friction. So the two fender washers here allow the washers to be able to kind of rotate like a bearing. So we'll put two fender washers on. And now is where we would actually install our spool. Take our spool, and this happens to be a short one. I didn't have a 3,000 yard spool with me. So we'll slide that on. The next thing we're going to need is we're actually going to need a portion of our spring here. And we're going to take this spring and we're going to cut it with a pair of side dikes.
I like that word.
I like that word too. I'm just going to kind of find the middle of it. And I can't squeeze hard enough, so he's going to do this. Here, hold this. You're not wearing safety equipment. All right, so apparently side dikes probably aren't the best way to do this. If you're strong, side dikes are the way to do this. There you go. Now one person could actually do it with a hacksaw or a 4-inch angle grinder. We just happen to have a pair of side dikes because, well, Brian likes that word. So we have our one truss spring here, compression spring. We're going to slide that on. And then we're going to need two more washers. One. Two. And again, it's friction. And now we need our jamb nut. Now the reason for the jamb nut is because when you start spinning this, if you were to spin it one way, if the line was coming up over the top or down below, it could actually spin off a normal screw or a normal nut. But because of the jamb nut, it won't spin it off. The only downfall to this is the amount of gap you have between here and here. That could be rectified after you actually get your spools on there. You could cut that off with a hacksaw. You could cut it off with a Dremel tool. I don't think you could use side dikes. You could cut that off. But for the ease of this video, we're going to go ahead and leave that on there. And hopefully they can speed the video up as I stand here and rotate this 1,000,000 times. All right, folks, we're back. We made one small change here. We went ahead and put a jamb nut on this side. The problem that we were having is we were putting the jamb nut on this other side. The rod kept spinning. So we went ahead and just added a jamb nut. And I'll add at this point in time, it'd probably be a good idea if you just went ahead and did 2 jamb nuts, one on each side of the board here. We installed 2 washers on both sides of the spool here, followed by our compression spring, followed by 2 more washers. I know originally I said no washers here, but we're going to need 2. And then we have our compression spring springed out. The reason that I actually bought a long compression spring instead of 2 shorter ones was I couldn't find 2 short ones at the store today. So for easy use, we went ahead and bought one. I know that in my prototype that I used a slightly heavier spring, and that helped out a lot. But we have this all set up. We're going to get ready and mount this on the wall, and we'll show you how it works, how you can set tension on the spool so that you don't need someone else to help you when you're spooling your fishing reels. So we'll head on over and get this mounted to the wall, and we'll get to spooling. All right, folks, as you can see, we have this mounted over here to one of Steve's cabinets. Brian had a little accident with some fishing line. And the design that we have is designed to go on like a 4x4 or a 4x6 in a pole barn on the side of a cabinet. Obviously, if you're going to change it a little bit, you could use L brackets to mount to a regular wall, maybe a different design. This is a quick, fast, simple design. So what Steve's going to do is he's going to go ahead and reel this down. This is a spinning reel. And I'd like to point out one of the greatest myths that's out there in relation to putting line on spinning reels is that it should be put on from the floor and coiled off. That is one of the biggest myths that's out there. We're going to do a later video that actually goes into that in depth and show you the reason why that it's a myth and that this is the preferred method to actually load line on a spinning reel. So go ahead, Steve, and reel down. And what we're looking for is tension. And as you can see right now, Steve's really pulling hard and it's not coming off the spool very well. The nice part about this is I can actually adjust the tension here, and I'm going to loosen it up. And as I loosen it, he's going to be able to start reeling. So now you can see that as he's reeling, the line is starting to coil off there, and I'm going to loosen it up just a tick more. So what this is doing, this is allowing Steve to load his reel real quick without having another person out here. It provides the tension on the reel, and this can be done with, like I said, a spinning reel, casting reels. It can be done with trolling reels. It can be done with just about anything. You have a tensioner here. You can adjust your tension. I leave a wrench on mine all the time. I leave my spools on there all the time. It's out of the light, it's out of the elements, and it's out of the way. So if I ever need to spool anything up, I can just simply walk over and spool it up. Looks like Brian's out of meat stick, and we're out of time. I hope this helps you guys out. I hope that it gives you some ideas and some tips on how to create your own. And if you're like me and you don't have a lot of friends around, it'll provide a quick, easy way for you to be able to spool your reels up without the need of having somebody else around. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys come back, click subscribe to the Hall & Ash YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more great videos.